What's up, everybody? Another edition of Out of the Blind podcast. This is Gabe Spencer, back at it again. It's beginning of January, rocking and rolling right through these. It's too hot to duck hunt, so we're just here working here at Kimber Creek Media, Accurate Roof Systems, all the different things I'm involved in. But we're just here grinding it out here in East Texas, and got another cool guest here on the show. But first, I want to thank our title sponsor, Back Down South Clothing. If you guys haven't checked these out, you're just now chiming into this podcast, they're a huge supporter of us. Michael Sims, one of my best buddies. He's probably an I would call him. He would be on level expert for duck hunting. He always has a duck call in his mouth constantly. I think he was probably born that way. So anytime you walk into their shop down there in Lindale, you'll hear him in the back. He's always blowing a damn duck call. You'd think he'd be a professional at that by now, but he's getting close. But Back Down South Clothing, these guys, they have just a little bit of everything. Anything, hats, T-shirts. They're always coming out with some new design. They're kind of like, I would call it cutting edge. And their shirts they're silky smooth. Like, they're not just some like Gildan shirt that you buy from, I don't know, the Dollar General. It's really nice stuff. Quick shipping. They got some specials out for Christmas, I'm sure, going on right now. Dog vests, leashes, everything duck hunting. Got their own line of calls out right now. So make sure to check them out. You can check them out on Instagram. You can check them out on website, backdownsouthclothing.com, Facebook. Make sure to check them out. And when you check out and you fill that cart with like $3,000 to $5,000 worth of stuff, you can put in Out of the Blind 15, and that'll get you 15% off of that. So save you a little bit of money. Anyway, without further ado, I have Barney on the show today. Say hi, Brian.
Hey.
So this guy, he is he hosts the podcast. It's Eastman's Elevated Podcast. It's a bow hunting, right? Bow hunting podcast or just hunting podcast?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Western hunting, but yeah,
That's
specifically bow hunting for sure.
Right.
I live, eat, sleep, and breathe bow hunting.
I know. I noticed that. Like I was going through your Instagram and when I first I was creeping. I'm sorry, I was creeping on, not in a weird erotic way, but I was looking through those pictures and man, like, is there anything that have you killed it all in North America? Yeah.
I don't know about it all, but I've definitely had a bunch of just awesome adventures, and all my adventures too. It's all blue collar. It's like the same opportunities that are out there for everybody. I'm just a carpenter that loves to bow hunt, and so yeah, travel the lower 48 and really the world: Hawaii, Alaska, New Zealand, about any place that they'll let me bow hunt.
That's badass, dude. So you have you where all have you been this past season?
Man, okay. So I started the season in Hawaii. So Hawaii has got axis deer, and these axis deer, they were gifted to King Kamehameha in the early 1600s. And these axis deer now live wildly on Hawaii. And there's actually like 80,000 axis deer on Maui alone, 20,000 axis deer on Lanai, but these things are just super switched on. And so, they evolved from avoiding Bengal tigers. And so they're really jumpy, really on edge and tough to kill with a bow. So I started my season there. From there, high country mule deer, did a trip in Nevada above 10,000 feet. We filmed that one for Eastman's. That'll be coming out later this year. Did straight from there, did archery antelope here in my home state of Montana. Did a big trip to Colorado for above timberline mule deer, like above 12,000 feet.
Wow.
Came back, hunted elk in Montana, killed a really good bull, like late, had to grind the whole season, killed a nice 6-point. And then into late season mule deer and did my home state of Montana, and then did Idaho late. And that pretty much wraps out my season. Maybe a desert hunt down in Arizona coming up in January, but it's been a full season, man. It's been a riot.
You got to burn like 10,000 calories a day doing this or more. Golly. You have to eat like a fat girl to be able to just move that much. I've done a lot of, I wouldn't even say a lot. I've done my fair share of, Western big game hunting, but that stuff, that's an ass whipping. I've trained, look, the only bad thing is I'm down here at 435 foot elevation in Tyler, Texas. So, it kind of sucks because, when I start training, and I'll start training in June or July for an October hunt, and it still kicks my ass. There ain't. It's like, what's the point? I might as well just eat the cheeseburgers, and because it's just, man, it's rough. So hats off to you. I mean, you guys, traipse around the damn mountains like it's nothing. I went out with Trey Spillers from Rainy Red, and we filmed an elk hunt with him over in New Mexico. And man, we had a couple mountain guides there, and man, you guys are just like, I mean, it just warps my mind. The stuff that like that one dude, he was like, I'm not kidding. This guy had to been, I don't know how tall you. How tall are you?
5'7" on my best day.
He's probably shorter than that. I would say he would be. I would say 5'5" or 5'4", and he probably weighed 105 pounds. Like he was. You could put him in your pocket. It was like a pocket guide, and but he would smoke cigarettes, like just like Big Chief in the cigarettes the whole way up the mountain. I don't know if that affects the elk. Does it? You think?
I'm sure it has some effect, but I mean, I'm a guy that plays the wind.
Is that a cover scent, you think? Or maybe that's how he tests the wind. I don't know.
It could be.
Dude, this guy, like at one point, because we were making fun of him for smoking cigarettes so much, he was running, because we're on private ground, but we had to take this Toyota truck like up the mountain to a spot we were going to stop and then get out and then walk. But at one point he was like, "Oh, you think?" So he just gets out off the truck and he's running with a full pack, like running behind the truck and the cigarette. Like, of course, the dude's like, I don't know, he's probably like 23 years old, so he still had that on his side.
Yeah, that youth is a powerful tool, and yeah, I definitely don't run the cigarettes, but everything else, it's like it takes a year-round training. Like I run marathons and ultra marathons to make sure I'm ready for the mountains. Like I live bow hunting 365, and physical conditioning is a huge part of it. But now, I've been hunting these mountains for 20-25 years. I don't want to age myself, but for a bunch of years, and my body has just adapted to the mountains and evolved to the mountains because it's all I do, whether I'm training or whether I'm hunting there. So, right. It's still hard work and it's not fun all the time, but it's like this type 2 fun, that you put so much effort in. And then, when you can come out on top and be successful and sneak within a stone's throw of like a giant mule deer or whatever and get an arrow in them, man, it's just the ultimate, adrenaline rush that I haven't felt doing anything else. So that's what drives me, man, year round.
Yeah, that's I can totally get it. That I've only made one successful bow kill on an aoudad over in Southwest Texas. We've got a lease over there. It's full of axis and full of aoudad, so I'm pretty fortunate. I call it the meat market. You can just go over there and whack one, and I don't buy a lot of meat, so I feed my family with that type of stuff, and so I'll make a trip over there. We'll knock down a couple axis and an aoudad. But I bought a bow, and I was like, man, I'm gonna see what I can do with this, and that was a trip. Like that, I know why it's so addicting.
Yeah, kudos to you. I hear those aoudad are tough to arrow as well. They're sheep. They've got really good eyesight.
I was in a box blind. I was cheating. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he came in, I saw him, and I was like, that's the first arrow I ever flung, besides 3 at the bow shop. And then I flung and smacked that one at like 40 yards. And I mean, he went about 30 yards and keeled over dead. So, but I was pretty proud of that. It was pretty cool. And, and people could laugh at me. You might laugh at me, but man, when I heard that arrow hit, that's what I was like, oh, wow. Like that's something like I'd rather get shot with a gun than get shot with an arrow any day after seeing that carnage. Because that thing just piles right through freaking, those aoudad are tough as a freaking boot. And, they told me to shoot them in the shoulder blade because it's not like a whitetail. Everything's up a little further. And so it just went right through. I mean, just punched right through that bone like it was nothing. And, I mean, just killed him freaking stone cold dead. So, yeah, that was cool. So now, I've been trying to get some other bow kills, and I have not been successful. But I've been working on it. And so, that was what was cool with hanging out with Trey. He's like you. He's addicted to bow hunting, and to get up when we went up there to New Mexico and got in the freaking living room of that giant bull at 12,500 feet, and see that thing at 40 yards, 30 yards. Like, that's now I know why you guys do it. Now I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So yeah, definitely freaking badass. I can see why you do it. Any any type of hunts you've went on that's been just totally unsuccessful?
Yeah, I mean, there's always unsuccessful hunts. Like, man, it's the challenge that draws us in. It's why we fall in love with it. Like, it is so difficult. Like, I say it like on my podcast. Like, it is the most difficult challenge on planet Earth, and especially like a public ground. Being able to go where everybody else can hunt and
Yeah.
be able to figure it out, and then yeah, man, you fail a lot. Like this year I ran about 80-90% on my tags. The only tag I ate was that high country Colorado tag, and I hunted one buck for 7 days, and finally got the stock. And man, I was sitting in bow range of this buck. I had to climb the top of a 13,000-foot peak and sneak down this slope that's so steep on this rock slide and get into position from just off where this buck had bedded. And this buck's buddies came out, and one was a really nice mature 4-point, and I think there was another 2 or 3-point, and then another doe with them. And they came out and fed first, and they fed down below me. And such an intense encounter. Like, finally the big buck came in, and he was in bow range for over 30 minutes, and in bow range and broadside, but there was always a deer's head looking in my direction. And the minute you go to move, animals really pick up on this movement. And so I just held tight, and I was waiting for the right opportunity, and he fed by me, and finally all their heads were pointed the wrong direction. This is after like 30 minutes. And so finally I draw back, and it's like a shot down a 50-degree slope. It's not that far. It's like 45 yards or so, but super steep angle. And I'm sitting on a rock and kind of twisted up. And I got a range, and I have a mover sight. But the deal is I had my sight set to 55. He was 45, shoot the next pin up. And man, I thought it was a done deal. But I kind of twisted down to the shot and put the pin where it went and started to execute. And I executed a good shot. But that arrow ended up high and ended up just slicing just the top of his back. Just gave him a scratch up there, and
Yeah.
missed him. And it was absolute heartbreak. I mean, it was 7 days of climbing those mountains and, playing the cat and mouse with that buck, but not letting him know I was hunting him. And finally had my chance, and then I blew it. So, man, it was a huge fail. In the beginning of season that I had to overcome. And man, it just bugs you when you put absolutely everything into it and then fail like that. It hurts and it cuts you down to your core. But the only thing to do is to pick yourself back up, get back on the horse and get after it, And so, after that one, ended up taking a nice bull and really filling out the season on really nice mature animals. But I definitely fail. Failure's a prerequisite to bow hunting. And
That's what I hear.
if you don't like failure, you're not going to be very good at
Not
bow
for-
hunting because it
not for-
happens
yeah.
all the time.
Right. I think that's hunting in general, but I think bow hunting is just it's even less forgiving. So it's my father-in-law is a really huge bow hunter. My wife, even another huge bow hunter. She shoots a recurve. So she doesn't do it enough, but I mean, it's still impressive. So, but yeah, man, I was going through these pictures, and from looking at these pictures, I can tell that you've been in some pretty like wild, crazy, remote places. But like average, what would you say your average time, like off the grid would be? Like, what would that be? Like time out in there.
Usually for these hunts, I want to plan enough time. Like the key with bow hunting is to have enough time, to be able to find these animals, and patience kills the buck or bull. You got to play these situations patiently. But yeah, usually on these endeavors, like it's usually 10 days for me. If I've got another hunt coming up, or I've got it stacked in between hunts, I may figure 7 days. But yeah, usually it's 7 to 10 days, 7 to 12 days off the grid. And I tell you, man, like it's so wild, like to get away from our phones for that long, to get away from modern civilization. And these mountains, they're just not nerfed. Like you get to go to the wildest, most remote places, in the lower 48, or even Alaska, Hawaii, wherever it is. But I pride myself on being able to get back to these super remote and rugged areas. And a lot of this stuff is really dangerous. Even this high country mule deer, a lot of times they'll live above where the goats and sheep do, and they live like in this gnarly country, super steep terrain and rocks. And like, if you don't choose the right route, or you don't get back to camp on time, or you can't ride out a big storm, or dude, the lightning storms up there.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, sometimes it
yeah,
feels like God's shooting at you up there.
yeah.
Like you're up at 12,000 feet and it starts going in, and you'll have a 100 strikes within a half mile that are flash booming around you. Like you can hardly find a safe place. Now,
See the smoke
throughout the
off of them.
years, I've gained some experience
Yeah,
doing it, but man, it gets sketchy up there. But
yeah.
I tell you, putting it all on the line like that, and having your decisions directly affect your safety, man, it's like you're alive.
Any
It's
any any
so different.
any close calls? Like any close calls with I'm not gonna get back on this one. Like I'm not going home.
Oh man.
I
Definitely
already know.
had some
I already
close
know that.
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had some gnarly situations, and I had to learn some tough lessons in my younger years where I was had a bit more bravo, like more go than sense a lot of times. I just didn't have that wood experience. Like I had to gain all that. So yeah, I made some mistakes, like sleeping up on a ridge line. I got the weather report, and I was trying to kill a high country buck in Montana. Storm wasn't supposed to roll in until the next day. And so I'm sleeping, and this is like above 10,000 foot on this open ridge line. And the first lightning strike is right above my head, the flash boom, where you just jump out of the sleeping bag almost in a full panic. Is that thing probably struck, probably 100 yards away from me, somewhere right in there. And
Yeah.
so, man, I throw my rain jacket on and I dive down the side of the mountain, and kind of getting some trees into what I think is a safe spot off the main ridge line, dropped about 400 feet in elevation, left my camp right there, and rode out that storm, and rode it out sitting on my feet, thinking I'm going to get struck by lightning the whole time, with it buzzing around me and hitting trees. And I mean, that's just one instance. I've had multiple run-ins with lightning, dangerous storms, grizzly bears, black bears, like man, you name it. It's
It happens so
the
fast.
wilderness is wild.
It is. It's insane. I mean, I've spent quite a bit of time. I backpack fly fish, and uh, I'll do a lot of that. And then I've been on a handful of public ground elk hunts, and in Colorado and some of those places. And so yeah, when you get back in some of those, man, it's just crazy how fast the weather switches like on a dime. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. And being a roofer, we love hail, but I don't love hail when I'm over there. And it'll like start hailing on you, sleeting, and it's like it was just sunny 2 seconds ago. It was nice. What happened? Why? Mother Nature lost her attitude. It's just like we don't want you here anymore. And so it was. Yeah, dude, it's that weather. It's that weather, crazy ass weather systems that just like, I don't think a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people really fathom how crazy it can get just from what I've seen, not necessarily even from what you've seen, because that would even blow my mind, and I do that type of stuff. So yeah, it's just Mother Nature seeing all that stuff at work is just. I wish everybody could really experience it. Just really really cool stuff, and that's one reason I wanted to get in. I wanted to talk to you about these grizzly bears. I mean, that was my main thing. I saw this and I was like, this is. You shot that with a bow?
Yeah, all of mine are black bears, but yeah, I do hunt
I
in
thought that was
grizzly
a
bear
grizzly bear,
terrain.
but still, yeah. I went on a sting. I went with Trey Spillers again back to New Mexico, and we went on a bear hunt, but it wasn't the kind of bear hunt that you're doing. That stuff, man. I mean, sticking a bear and sticking an arrow in one of those things is just. Do you go by yourself? Are you out there by
Uh,
yourself? You got something with
yeah,
you?
yeah, Gabe, I do.
You're by
Yeah,
yourself?
man. It's so primal. It's like it's entry level dangerous game. Now, grizzly bears for us bow hunters, it's not my tax bracket. Like to go hunt a Kodiak brown bear is $30,000. To go hunt a grizzly bear, is $15,000. So it's not my tax bracket where I can do these huge adventures for less than that. But what is hunting giant black bears with my bow and arrow. And black bears are entry level dangerous game, but that does not mean they're safe. And like
No
to
way.
sneak in with a stone's throw and shoot one of those things with an arrow, it's not like shooting a deer or an elk where you shoot them and they run away from you. Like you hit a grizzly bear, that thing roars like a lion and spins and bites at that arrow 100 miles an hour. Every
Yeah.
time I shoot a bear, I always think, oh shit, what did I just do? Like they lose it, man.
Yeah.
And I've actually been charged by two of them that I've arrowed. So it gets real sketchy real quick. But yeah, I go out in the springtime and
So you're by
takes a lot
yourself.
of days of field. Yep, I do a lot of it by myself. I've got buddies I go with as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got my system down now. Like I used to just do it with just my bow, and I thought it was me versus the bears. And you know, after getting charged by one with my bow, like I snuck in as the last day of season, and there was this great big chocolate, and he was rutting a sow in the springtime, and so he was chasing her to try to breed her, and made a play at him ground level, got in close, and had him down in this sagebrush, and made a good shot on him. Executed a good shot. Arrow hit center of body, but it didn't quite hit like lungs, heart, like hit more liver, like just back a little bit, not guts, but definitely liver. And he disappeared down below me, down below this tree. And so I couldn't see him anymore, but I couldn't hear him running. So I knew he was standing right behind this big green tree. So I knocked another arrow real quick and waited for a few seconds. And then all of a sudden I saw him and he's coming up and he's running up by me. And he doesn't know I'm there. He's like making a death run, but he's going to run so close to me that I can reach out my hand and touch him as he comes by. So I huff at him at about 20 yards or so. And when I huff at him, that thing pins its ears back and comes straight for me. And I can hardly get my bow back drawn to shoot him, to have him die right at my feet right there. And it actually, like I always thought I'd shoot a charging bear in the chest, but they come charging with their head down. So it actually entered like behind his head into like the top of his neck or his brisket, and then drove down through him there and caught lungs. But the thing died right at my feet. And after that, I've got a family and whatnot, and it's like
Yeah.
all right, I got to be a little bit safer doing this if I'm going to continue to chase these things around. You know, like I like the adrenaline rush and I like the challenge, but man, I got to have my stuff together. So I started packing a pistol with me, and so I carry a Glock, and it's a 10 millimeter. It's got a lot of punch to it, carries 15 shells, and practice with it quite a bit. I practice with it quite a bit now. Now, my first time I got charged with that thing, I shot 11 times and I hit that bear twice and grazed him once. So like I didn't have my shooting system down, and man, it's like none of us know what it's like to be in war, or like to shoot at bad guys that are shooting back at you. Or like, you know, you think about these moments, but these intense encounters, and I arrowed this bear and I hit him right through the lungs at 30 yards. But I was sitting in his escape route. And so he came right down towards me. And so that's when I dropped my bow, drew my pistol, and started laying lead down there. But man, and I didn't even look at my sights till about the seventh shot. I mean, there was lead flying and dirt hitting up, and like it wasn't an impressive shooting display. And that's when I realized too that I've got to put in more time with that pistol to make sure I'm ready.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, that's freaking awesome. I mean, how about bear on the menu for you?
Oh yeah,
That stuff's
absolutely.
awesome,
Yeah,
isn't it?
spring bears eat really good. Yeah,
Dude.
they've got a little bit more fat content than like deer and elk, but they eat really good. And,
God.
and actually, the settlers and pioneers, they used to regard bear meat in the it was their highest form of
Yeah.
regard for that meat because of the fat content in it.
Yeah.
And so really it's got good taste. It's like you know, any of this wild game, if you don't like it, it's probably your butcher or your cook, you
Right.
know. And so
100%.
like I think maybe they're a little bit greasier in the fall or whatever, but in the spring they eat really good. Now, I don't cut off a bear steak and cook it, because bears have to be cooked to 160-degree internal temperature to make sure that you kill the trichinosis or trichinella that can be in them.
Right.
And that's a really bad parasite that can get in there. So it's got to be cooked to 160, like pork, like chicken.
Yeah.
But when you overcook wild game, it gets tough, you know, and
Yeah.
like medium rare is really how you cook a deer steak or an elk steak, but you can't do that with the bear. So bear,
Right.
I do more like fajita meat with it, and then do like seasoned sausage that I'll
Oh yeah, I
grind
bet
up
that's good.
myself.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have it that way, not so much like a bear steak, but more like the sausage burger and then the fajita meat.
So when Trey killed a couple black bears over in New Mexico. I never had it before. I'm a big time. I eat everything. I mean, there's not much on the planet walking around that I probably wouldn't eat. Um, but I never had bear meat before, so we were with some natives on the Apache Indian reservation there at the Hickory. Anyway, we knocked down a couple bears, and they were just they were taking the hides off of them. Anyway, I didn't want to leave any meat to waste, so I took what I would want. Never trying it before, I'm like, well, I'm going to take some of this, and so I picked whatever I wanted. Got me a couple big giant pieces of fat off of it, and anyway, I brought it back home, and so now I've got this bear meat, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to work with this? So anyway, the first thing that come across when I was doing my research on bear meat was bear fat and how it could predict the weather. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't heard it.
Really?
No.
This is real.
Yeah,
Well,
learn something every day. Tell
so
me.
so I rendered this bear fat down. All the bear fat that I had, I rendered it down. I put it in a jar, right? And put it in a big glass mason jar, and you set it in the window, and it'll layer out. So it has like a really clear layer, and then it has like a cloud layer on the bottom. And on this graph, or on this, I don't. You could tell when I looked it up where it came from. It was from a very old book, but it had to have been a new enough book because it could predict a nuclear bomb. It had the shape of a nuclear bomb, like of a mushroom cloud. I'm not making this. You can look it up as soon as I'm done. Look it up. But anyway, it would predict like which way the wind was coming from, if it was going to be like a cold front, snow. Um, what else was on the earthquake, volcano, uh, all kinds of stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna try this out. So I got that bear fat and I put it in the window. And every day I would go look at, and it would move. Like what happens is the lower level of the bear fat, like the cloud layer, would grow up into like like an old school lava lamp. It would grow up into it and make a shape, or it would lean towards one direction. Um, and it was right. It was right for the wind. Like it would be leaning, no wind touching it, but it would lean, like the slope of the cloud layer would move that direction. I didn't keep it up in the window long enough to like test for anything else, but for what it said was correct. Now I was hoping I wasn't going to see a mushroom cloud in there or the volcano one. Uh, but yeah, so you need to look that up. That was very interesting, and it's from what they were saying is that's how they would predict the weather up to like a couple days in advance using bear oil or bear fat.
Hmm.
Um,
Man, that's wild. Yeah, I've never heard that. It must
Pretty
do
interesting, yeah.
like be due to like the barometric pressure, like it.
I don't. It'd have to be, but
But
a
I don't
nuclear
know. The
bomb.
wind direction is a little bit strange too. But I guess that would tie to the barometric pressure. But yeah, man, that's wild. I've never heard that.
Yeah, but nuclear bomb.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one.
That was so strange. I was like, I could imagine all these things, but back then, I mean, they didn't have nuclear bombs, you know. But maybe that was new. That's why I was like, well, it couldn't be that old, or maybe they added to it. But there was a lot of stuff with when I was doing my research, and I kind of dove into all the, I guess all the bear facts, like what all I could
Hmm.
do with this and what people have been doing with it for all these years. And I was reading how, um, those settlers and those mountain men, they, like you were saying, like they liked the bear meat way better. Um, they would use bear for food, and elk and mule deer and other stuff for that's clothing. Worked better that way. They of course eat that too, but they would rather have the bear meat. So,
Hmm.
but I started thinking about too, like, uh, even with like beavers and stuff like that, where you would hear them eating beaver tail. I guess it's just because it was fat. Like they got tired of eating lean elk and lean everything else all the time. It'd probably be nice to get a piece of fat in there every now and then.
Oh,
So
they needed it.
yeah.
There's like that saying that what is it, rabbit starvation or whatever, that the meat's too lean, that if you just eat that, you'll starve to death. So yeah, that
Mm.
fat was a real precious commodity, and that rendered bear fat is good for so much. Like
Oh my gosh.
cooking wise, that stuff is just awesome. It's got like it's a really high heat tolerance
Yeah.
to it, when you're
Yeah.
cooking with it. So yeah, it's like better than olive oil or
Anything.
better than vegetable oil or any of that stuff. And then yeah, you can use it. Like I know back in the day, I was raised in the Pacific Northwest, and we get like 200 inches of rainfall a year, and so we would use bear fat to grease our boots, to waterproof our boots.
Yeah, I read
And so
that.
you'd rub that rendered fat on your boots, and it would keep you dry. And there's other products nowadays, but man, that bear fat, it still serves as a great
Dude,
use. And yeah, I try to render all that fat I
that
get,
stuff
man.
is
That stuff's
so
great.
so awesome, and I heard it cures baldness. You could rub
Does
that.
it?
Yeah, you could rub that. You can rub that on your fried egg in the back, and it would make that not be there anymore. That's what I read. I don't know. I didn't rub any of that on my face or
That's
anywhere
why I
on my
still
body.
got a good head of hair
Yeah,
on me.
yeah. Maybe that's it. That could be it, man. Yeah. So I made some biscuits with that. I made quite a bit, but I don't have a lot. So I'm like, I'm keeping it. It's like my sacred bear meat. But I've been bear fat. But I've been trying to find another place I can go get a bear because now they're on my menu because that was like one of the best pieces of meat I've ever had. I just slow cooked it in a slow cooker, like a roast,
Hmm.
cooked it for about 8 hours. And golly, it was just like melting your mouth. The flavor was awesome. I mean, it wasn't greasy. It wasn't what everybody told me that it would be. And which, I cook a lot. So, I cook a lot with wild game. And so that's why I was just really excited to get that protein in my hands finally. I'm like, all right, see what this is all about. And man, it's a way up on the list, way high on my list of they're on the menu now, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go kill them.
That's
That's
a great way to cook it too. That slow cooking it
oh
like you
my
did.
gosh,
Yeah,
man!
man.
Like as we speak right now, I have a blade roast from Axis I shot this last summer in the slow cooker. It's been in there since 6:30 this morning. So I'm
Mm.
oh dude, like
Oh, it doesn't get any
I
better
can't
than
wait.
Axis meat
I
either.
can't. I know that
Oh,
stuff
and a
is
whole
like
shoulder like that
the
too.
whole
Good
shoulder,
for you,
the shank. I
man.
got the shank in there and the shoulder. I've got everything all crammed down in that big crock pot with, all kinds of stuff. And so one thing I've been doing is with that. So for the past, I think this is probably 4 years, I've been killing these axis like this. Um, and so I've taken from every batch of that I've made in that crock pot, I strain all the solids out of it. Right. So when I'm done, everybody's eating it. We're all fat, can't got the bloat, right? We've got foundered on it. Then I take it after I let it cool, and I just run it through I run it through a sieve, and then I'll run it through a piece of cheesecloth, and I get all the solids out of it, and then I put that in a bag, and then I put it in the freezer. So my next one, I start off with that one again, and so I'll thaw that out, and I'll put it back in, and then I add to it. So I've been adding to that same stock for 4 years, and it is like the flavor profile in this thing, it will warp your mind because it's had so many shoulders and stuff cooked in it that it's just like, oh my gosh. Like we had a freezer go out, and I thought that bag was in it, and I was gonna cry. But luckily, it was not that freezer. So I thought that that was gonna be the end of my days if I just have to hang it up after that. But yeah, so I mean, big time. Like when you're out there in the wilderness by yourself, I mean, you can only pack so much for 10 days.
Hmm.
Any of that you eat on the trail, like you eat that you just get while you're out there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If we kill a deer back there, if I'm hunting with buddy or hunting solo, yeah, we're having some of it in mountains. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much, man, I can't do those dehydrated meals anymore. I done. They just mess with my system. I don't feel right on them. Like I got to have real food back there.
Right.
But you're right. Like, weight's a precious commodity in the backcountry, and so like I do like my own cooking back there, but I pretty much live off homemade jerky from the animals that I harvest. And
Nice.
out of
Yeah.
that homemade jerky, I'll dehydrate that with peppers and slice it up real small. And then I'll do burritos with rice and
Oh yeah.
tortillas, or I'll do like I've got a good spicy noodle dish that I'll make with top ramen and some General Tso's, and then add those
Hell
peppers
yeah.
and meat. And so I get creative back there for sure. But yeah, I don't do any dehydrated meals. I don't do any pre-bought. It's all stuff that I prep before season.
Nice. What's your pack? I mean, just on a 10-day hunt, what are you packing on your back, weight
Man,
wise?
Yeah, so it's difficult because most places I go, I have to have a spotting scope and a tripod to be able to field judge and look over distant terrain. So that right there is an extra 6 pounds. But yeah, man, I've got my system down. So if I'm going for a 10-dayer, I want to be under 45 pounds, and that doesn't include the clothes that I'm wearing or my bow. But yeah, usually under 45 pounds. If I'm doing a 5 to 7 day, I can get in around 40 pounds, and also depends on how much water I've got to take. Like water, especially like hunting high country mule deer, like they don't need water every day like an elk does. They can live above the water. And so a lot of times you're having to pack enough water to the ridge to be able to live days on end and stay
Oh
up in that
yeah,
high
I didn't
country,
think of
or
that.
not. If you don't, like you've got to hike 2,000 feet down to a lake or down to a creek to fill your water
Right.
to get back up on top. But it's really one of the things that separates me from a lot of guys is I don't need a lot of water. Like I can usually make do 32 to 50 ounces a day if need be. Now I can only run that for a couple days and then I've got to get 100 ounces in me or so. But
Right.
yeah, I don't take much water, but water, it's like 2 pounds for every 32 ounces, so 100 ounces to take up there will get me through a couple of days, and that's 6 pounds. So usually like 32 ouncer to get to where I'm going, and then finding these secret springs in country, these high mountain springs that have a little bit of water where I can fill
Hell
up,
yeah.
is so advantageous, especially hunting this extreme terrain. But yeah, usually I'd say 45 pounds for a 10-dayer, 40 pounds for a 5 to 7 dayer. And if I'm just going for a quick weekend trip, sometimes I'm a weekend warrior having to work construction during the week. I can get by on about 35 pounds or so.
So what elevation is it where it's safe to drink water, just running water? I've heard as long as there's not beavers or cattle upstream, you can do that. But there has to
Mm-hmm.
be more science to it than that. Is there?
Yeah, I think there's more science. Like the best way to do it is to treat all your water. And now they make lights, little lightweight UV lights that'll kill all the bacteria, all the parasites, like anything that you find in your water. And you're right, like downstream of beaver, they call it beaver fever, and you can also get giardia in the mountains.
Giardia,
But
yeah.
yeah, I've had giardia before, and I think it's like those guys back in Vietnam. Like once you have it, your body kind of figures out like how to fight it, and so like it's like going down to Mexico and drinking the water down there. We go down and we drink the water in Mexico, and we can get sick as a dog for days. But the Mexican people down there are drinking that water every day, and they've just got their stomachs used to it. So I think I've got a bit of a backcountry stomach where I don't
Right.
catch much anymore. But I do try to treat most of my water. If I'm hunting high country mule deer and I'm hunting, like where I know there's no cattle or no animals up above, and I can see where the spring comes out, or I'm hundreds of feet from the spring where it actually leaves the earth, then I feel
Right.
pretty safe
Yeah.
drinking it. But
Yeah.
yeah, usually only in the extreme high country where I'm getting above all those the creeks where I'm at, like the springs where they actually come out of the earth, then I feel okay
Yeah,
drinking it.
I'm in the same boat you are. I always kind of, I except this last time I was up there. I mean, I could pretty much see the source, and I was like, "Oh, we're good. Oh yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
solid." And I'm filled up my filled up my water bottle and uh, went to the top. When we came back down after killing that bull, I crossed the same stream, and there's just dead animal bones all in the stream. I'm, oh, I'm gonna be painting the side of a tree here in a little bit. This isn't gonna be
Yeah.
good, but
You,
yeah, dude.
when your water tastes like elk, you're in trouble. Like when you're
Yeah,
trying to get it out of an elk wallow and it
yeah,
tastes like elk piss, you're like, oh
yeah,
man, that filter didn't do too good of a job there.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I've
I
definitely got some sketchy water over the years, but some pretty good water too from those springs, where you can see the source. But yeah, it's always a gamble.
it is, dude. Like, oh my gosh, it's just, and that's just always the fun part of it. Going up into that kind of country, man. It's just, just I don't know. I guess like I can appreciate that grind of that. Like, it's just gnarly. It's just no the best part. No cell phone. I mean, it's just you and what you're around, and I kind of eat that stuff up, and even though it's brutal on your body, like getting beat with a wiffle ball bat for 2 days straight. Um, it's still awesome. And but yeah. So I mean, what about fly fishing up there? Get a lot of that done?
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw
Yeah,
some pictures of
whenever
that.
it's the off season, yeah, I fly fish all over. We live in one of the best spots here in Montana. So I actually live on a blue ribbon trout stream on the Madison here. And so yeah, I mean,
I
I've
know.
got
I fished the
uh
Madison before.
yeah, oh, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Madison is
Oh yeah.
a good system, man. There's some
Yeah.
good trout in it. So yeah, I mean, I fly fish all over. It's fly fishing only for me. I return every year back to the Pacific Northwest, to the Olympic Peninsula. I fish for
Wow.
2 weeks out there for steelhead, and yeah, I chase giant brown trout all over Montana, and we're into chasing those big ones, you know. And so I've got so many streams within an hour of my house. I mean,
That's
I've
so
got the
awesome.
Madison, the Beaverhead, the Big Hole, the Ruby, the Missouri, the Yellowstone, like so many good
Dude.
systems. And again, just like you were talking in the mountains, like it's a true adventure in the mountains. Like
It
it's a
is.
blue collar adventure that you get to
Yeah.
go for it. And same thing with fly fishing, man. Like exploring these new systems and these new rivers, you're never sure where the put in is or the takeout is. And, there may be white water in between. And, there's a lot of information on the internet nowadays, but a lot of it is really exploring. There can always be a log across the river or a channel that's changed. And so every time you cut loose, you're never quite sure what you're going to get into, but that's part of the fun of it too. So yeah, I do a bunch of fly fishing with buddies. My dad lives here in the same community, take him fly fishing a bunch. And so yeah, if I'm not bow hunting, you'd probably find me on the river tossing a fly for sure.
That's
Man,
it.
we just got some awesome hatches too,
Oh,
like
dude.
that salmon fly hatch around here. It's a 3-inch long dry fly that comes off, and the trout put on so much of their weight chasing these big flies. And these big fish, they hunt these flies in these hatches, and this hatch is man, it's like a real technical hatch. Is these bugs, they're laid an egg, they live for 4 years in the river, and then
Yeah.
when the temperature gets right, and the season's right, they crawl to the banks and they hatch out, and then they fly upstream and they mate and then drop their eggs in the river, and the whole process starts over. But it's a real fickle, finicky hatch, you know. And so I traveled to 4 or 5 different systems here in Montana and even Idaho, chasing that hatch and chasing the big fish. And when they come up and eat that thing,
I know.
it's like a white shark taking a seal.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
so aggressive, they
Yeah.
eat on it, you know. And they're
Yeah.
they're the biggest browns in the river, the ones we all dream about, you know, that go 24, 26, or even the magical 30 number, you know. There's
Yeah.
just some giant trout that'll eat it. So yeah, man, it's a
Yeah.
blast.
They're
Living out west
yeah, you guys got it made.
truly a blessing.
You guys definitely got it made. What about I've never traveled. I've been wanting to go west for waterfowl. Over here we don't have anything really cool to hunt, but hunt a lot of waterfowl. But I've been looking at going out to some of those western states. Have you ever experienced any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to duck hunt a bunch as a kid in the Pacific Flyway for sure. And then when I moved to Montana, I did some bird hunting. Bow hunting's just kind of taken over that season. But yeah, there's definitely some great bird hunting to be had, like Wyoming, Montana. Mostly it's geese and mallards, but there's some places like on the Big Hole where they get a bunch of wood ducks in there. So wood ducks are a trophy to the duck hunter just because they're so pretty, like the
Right.
coloration on those
Right.
males. And on that Big Hole, yeah, you can shoot a limit of wood ducks on that thing. And so yeah, there's definitely some great places to waterfowl. And then like upland game bird hunting, walking through the sagebrush out west here. Like I know bow hunt, I run across a bunch of great spots for Hungarian partridge and sage grouse and pheasants, you know.
Yeah, these grouse. I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about these grouse. So
Mhm.
I saw these grouse for the first time in New Mexico. Um, and those things. These guys were shooting with a bow, but have you done that? Shot them with a bow,
Yeah,
dude?
absolutely. Yeah, there's a bunch of different species, and they'll scare the shit out of you when you're in
Hell
grizzly
yes, they
bear
will.
country.
They'll scare the shit out of you anytime. Golly.
Yeah, they fly up and they make a huge ruckus. They're not
Yeah.
known to be the smartest bird in the world, but I think they just get like kind of a bad reputation because they do use their camouflage to try to hide a lot, you know, and they do have good camouflage. But I mean, they live out there with coyotes, wolves, mountain lions, you
Right.
name it. So they've definitely got like a good danger sense to them. But yeah, those things are wild. They're really good eating.
Oh my
They
gosh, yeah,
eat like chicken. Yeah, they're
yeah,
super good, and we run into them all the time bow hunting. So yeah, that's like another one that you can always add to the menu if you run into some grouse and carry an extra
heck
grouse
yeah,
arrow with you. You can
yeah.
always run an arrow through them.
Yeah, that stuff's freaking great. That's a cool thing up there, man. There's just so much stuff. Just you can just forage and find all kinds of things, and that's always been my deal. Walking around out there, I try to learn, uh, just even different plants you can eat and different. That's always a big big adventure part of me. So it's always fun doing that. And then just I always trip people out eating. I eat weird stuff anyway, but just eating like brown trout eggs raw, just right out of the trout, just squeeze them on a cracker, and like it's just all kinds of stuff, man. And just kind of trips people. I always take buddies, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing? Can't eat that." Yeah, try it. And then by the time they try it, I finally convince them to try it. Then they'll eat it. Then they can't stop eating it. I'm like, you guys, see what I mean? You guys eat too much damn McDonald's. That's the shit you need to be worried about. That's the stuff
That
I'm
is
like, I'm
that is
good.
what you got to be worried about.
Dang,
Yeah,
dude.
no,
But
there's a bunch. Like it is good to like know the habitat that you're walking in and being able to hunt so many different places. It's wild when you pay attention to that flora and fauna that's around you,
yeah, for
and
sure.
yeah, you'd run into like we've got good mushroom hunting that'll come up during the right seasons, that'll come up that we'll pick, and berries that come up. Like I was taking my daughter's senior pictures and we found wild strawberries out there. Like there's a bunch of cool stuff. Just open your eyes like you're doing.
Yeah, dude, it's really awesome. So, is there any people out there that you follow a lot, like on social media? Any people out there like um, that like you've learned the most from?
Yeah, there's some great people out there, but when I started there, there wasn't much out there. There was like Chuck Adams was out there, and I read his book. I mean, a huge influence to me, was Cameron Haynes back in the day. He wrote
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
that book, Bow Hunting the Wild Side, and he gets after it with the bow and with his training. And so, yeah, years ago, he in fact wrote for Eastman's Hunting Journal back in the day. And so I actually have the job that he had, and I remember racing to my mailbox like every time an issue would come out. Just had so much passion in his writing. He loved it so much, and he just went for it, all in on adventure and improving his skill sets and being the best bow hunter he can be. So definitely got motivation from there. But since I've developed into my own bow hunter, and
Yeah.
have the podcast, I try not to get ideas or outside input from other people. And of course,
Yeah.
it's the information day and age, and so I can still learn and gather information, but I don't want to put other people's ideas in my head. Like I want to do that critical thinking myself, and so yeah, like lately, I mean, there's definitely some really good follows on social media that I enjoy to follow those guys and really admire them and the work they put in and
Yeah.
the animals they harvest, and I can definitely appreciate it. But yeah, those are some of my influences like back in the day for
Yeah.
sure.
And so, what got you with Eastman? I mean, how long have you been there? How long have you been doing
Man,
that job?
I just willed myself into it.
That's what I'm talking
I
about.
was a carpenter, but I just loved bow hunting. And it was something where I'd go on these adventures. And at first I just started near home. I live in Montana. I'd hunt Montana elk, and I'd make a big harvest. And then they have subscriber stories that you can write in or submit your story and get published. And then I started traveling all over and started traveling for these mule deer and mountain goat hunts and black bear hunts. And then I started, like, I just had such a passion for it. I started speaking on that passion, and writing about it. And so, I got published through their magazine and other magazines, being like a freelance writer. And then, eventually just sent an email to Eastman's and said, hey, what about giving me a staff article? Like, I've been published in your magazine this many times. I got a bunch of cool ideas. Like, I'd love to write for you guys. And they go, okay, kid, what kind of ideas do you have? And I think I sent them 30 ideas the next day, all about next level bow hunting, like the nuances of it, and how to improve your skill sets and be more successful and do better. And so they ate that up, and they hired me there on the spot, and I've been
Good for
writing for
you.
them ever since. So I think that was
Good
probably
for you.
like 2008 or so. And then just from there, I just created more opportunities in the outdoor hunting or the outdoor lifestyle. Like did the podcast I've been doing. We've got over 300 episodes on Eastman's Elevated, and that thing just keeps growing because it's
Good.
that good next level information,
Yeah.
that guys eat up. Really good guests on there. And so I started that. Eastman's gave me the opportunity to start filming my hunts. And so I've pretty much been a freelance film guy. And I think now,
Awesome.
there's probably a dozen or more films that I have out, another 3 episodes that'll be edited this year, where I get to share my passion. I like going out in these wild places, and man, it pushes me to my limits, both physically and mentally. It's like all I have in the tank and more. Like, you really find out what you're made of, and you find out how to get through difficult times and how to push yourself, and so, like, through sharing that, it's just opened the doors. And now a lot more public speaking the last couple of years, where I get up and I talk about either elk hunting or mule deer, whatever the case is. But I just try to give guys that information that isn't common knowledge, the stuff that hasn't been written about over and over and over again. And that can only be done by somebody that's out there living it and out there doing it. And so I think that I attribute a lot of my success in writing, podcasting, filming, just to living the lifestyle, like having so much this passion and like chasing it and chasing adventure, and then being able to share it with guys, and they seem to really resonate with it. So that's kind of how I got my start.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. Like, freaking good for you. Like, just literally like will yourself into it. So yeah, I love to hear stuff like that. Maybe you need to do maybe you need to write an article on the bear fat.
Oh, absolutely.
See, you get some research on that. You can get
Mhm.
that old school whatever, that pencil drawing that I told you about. It's on there. Get
Mhm.
that, put that in there. That's interesting stuff, and but man, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk with us, and talk to some of my listeners on here, and maybe we'll have to flip it around the other way. So, but definitely, really, really huge thanks for coming on here, man, and look forward to talking to you in the future, and catch you on the next one. So, really, thank you a lot.
Oh, dude, my pleasure, Gabe. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on the podcast. And we definitely got to flip it around and have you on Eastman's Elevated, have another conversation. I feel like we're just getting started.
I think so, dude. I mean, I'm always off in left field, right? I'm never on track. It seems like I don't ever run off a script. I just kind of go off the cuff, and I just want to be natural on here, and just let people talk to you, or let people listen to you, and just learn some stuff and get a good laugh, maybe get a smile while they're driving to work every day, and see if we can kind of further this passion that we all have.
Yeah, man. Congratulations on the podcast.
Hey,
Gabe.
thanks, dude.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
thank you, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Okay. Sounds
See you,
good.
man. Thanks, everybody. Gabe Spencer, Out of the Blind podcast. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can go to our YouTube channel and see all this on film. So anyway, you guys like us, follow us, go out and check everybody out, and we will catch you guys on the next one.